Welcome to Fear and Greed, the week ahead. I'm Sean Aylmer, and as always, I'm joined by economist Stephen Koukoulas. You'll find him at thekouk.com and on Twitter using the handle thekouk, TheKouk. Stephen, you're not so well at the moment.
Oh, the dreaded COVID finally caught up with me, but I'm fine. I'm soldiering on.
Oh, every good economist soldiers on when markets are tumbling and the world's going to hell in a handbasket.
What an extraordinary time that rate hike from the Fed last week, 75 basis points, which was, well, some people are saying was expected, but I don't think it was fully priced in. So the harsh reality of such an aggressive rate hike with more to come, Chairman Powell was clearly saying that there's a range of more hikes to come. So the equity market hated it and was punished.
What I'm finding really interesting at the moment, or one of the many things that is very interesting at the moment, is that 75 basis point rate hike from Powell, from the US Fed, was followed by commentary that said, and we're going to do another one next month. But after that, we don't think this is going to be a common thing. So we had this period where investors were like, okay, we hate the idea that we're going to be up 150 basis points in just a couple of months. But if that's it, we're really happy about that. Then as kind of over the next 24 hours or so, they all changed their mind, it seemed to me. Actually, we're not so happy about that. Maybe we didn't read between the lines quite correctly, and so then markets were sold off again. It's kind of this whole trying to decipher exactly what central banks are saying.
And they haven't got a good track record. I think that's the problem too, that their credibility has been really badly damaged over the last couple of years. And I don't think anybody's critical of the central banks for the stimulus they put in place when COVID was at its worst, when economies were in recession, we weren't sure what was happening. So that was absolutely fine. But I think the markets now are dubious of Fed and RBA and Bank of England, who also hiked last week, but by only 25 basis points. But you've got this scenario where central banks, oh gosh, we don't trust them, we don't believe them. They kept rates too low for too long and have been now, well, we're going to give some guidance. We're not going to move much, but then they go 75, or in the case of the Bank of England, forecasting 11% inflation and only going 25.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great tools in the central bank toolkit used to be jawboning. Whatever they said, people believed. And maybe they just don't have that tool anymore.
Yes, and I think it's because they've got it more wrong than right, to be blunt. That they've not called it well. They've not been able to sort of reflate the economy. Just putting COVID aside for a second, that we had many, many years pre-COVID where inflation was arguably too low for too long. And that problem really was entrenched for a while. COVID came along, and of course, as we said, they stimulated the economy. And then it sort of, well, I won't say it ended, but we're learning to live with it, let's say. And then this inflation pressure came, and they've been flipping and flopping and doing a lot, doing not much, and sort of giving really unclear signals on what they're doing.
It was interesting last week. Phil Lowe, the Reserve Bank governor, appeared on ABC on the 7:30 report. Clearly, the bank is trying to get its message out there, because I can't remember a central bank governor ever appearing on a chat show previously.
I can't either. No, you'd have to sort of look back to Glenn Stevens, I doubt it, or Ian McFarlane, I doubt it, and
Bernie Fraser, maybe.
Maybe, but we're going back into the 90s, early 90s then. But look, you're quite right. I think that Phil Lowe, who's, again, confronting, like all central banks, a loss of credibility, I guess, and a willingness to sort of, or a wish, I suppose, to get the hawkishness out there in the public domain to sort of say to people, look, we are serious about containing inflation. We do have an inflation problem. So his commentary, I thought it was actually quite a good interview. The fact that it was quite novel. I thought he was actually quite strong and on the front foot about saying, well, where they made the errors, but also what their concerns are. So a rare interplay into the media, I must say, but interesting. Maybe they'll do more of it.
Now, this is all about the week ahead, so we need to get to that point. But just quickly, the labour force figures last week, very strong.
Great numbers, 60,000 increase in employment. Unemployment steady at a 48-year low of 3.9%. The workforce participation rate jumped again. The underemployment figures fell sharply again. So, they were just simply strong labour force numbers.
Okay, so this week, really, it is all about the Reserve Bank. We have the minutes of the bank's policy meeting of 2 weeks ago coming out. We've got a speech from Phil Lowe, which is entitled Economic Outlook and Monetary Policy. So that's pretty much giving his view on what's going on. a lot of pressure on the Reserve Bank at the moment, and we're going to see how that sort of comes out this week, I think.
Yes, and I think this is the opportunity, I guess, for Dr. Lowe to sort of lay the groundwork for what size hikes are needed. I think the futures market, most economists are saying there's a rate hike virtually every meeting between now and the end of the year. So there's 6 more RBA meetings, and it's just a question of whether they go 50, maybe they follow the Fed and do a 75 just to get that a cash rate back towards 2% pretty quickly, remembering that we're still only at 0.85. So it's an opportunity for him to sort of say, well, here are the inflation problems. Here's the good news on the labour market, as we were just saying, that we've got a very strong labour market, and that is a good thing that they're managing, but therefore we need to be pretty aggressive with our rate hiking cycle. And maybe he won't give a path of what sort of moves are going to be happening month to month. But if he sets up by year end that we need to get the cash rate at, say, 2.5 or 2.75, so broadly neutral, that would be interesting for the market. So that's his chance to do it.
Stephen, where do you think the economy's going over the next 6 to 12 months?
I think we're still okay. Now, clearly, consumer sentiment, as we saw in the last week's numbers too, took a big hit. Consumers are worried about cost of living, not just petrol and lettuce prices, but, the interest rate hikes and the like. But having said that, if we look at the business investment outlook, it's pretty good. We look at how consumers actually are rather than how they feel. Everyone who wants a job has a job, to be blunt. Yep. Wages are going up. We saw the Fair Work Commission, again, give minimum wage earners a 5.2% increase. So there's an income effect which should support spending. So, look, I think there's choppiness ahead. There's no doubt about that. And there are risks growing to the downside. But for the next 3 to 6 months, I can still see a good degree of momentum in the economy, albeit it'll be coming through in sort of erratic month-on-month indicators.
Stephen, have a great week.
Thank you, Sean.
That was economist Stephen Koukoulas, better known as The Kouk. You can find him at thekouk.com, TheKouk.com, and follow him on Twitter using the handle The Kouk. I'm Sean Aylmer, and this is Fear and Greed, the week ahead.